Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Sam Bryan Asks His Friends. Today I'm joined by the very talented Tim Jasper. Tim is a musician, a musical director, genuinely probably one of the most known people in the Northeast in the amateur musical theatre scene. And I'm really excited to have him on today. How are you doing, Tim? All right?
I'm all right, thank you, Sam.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
So would you agree there with my little description of you, do you think?
it's pretty accurate, it's me.
That's all right then. Okay, so as I say, music for a long, long time, and specifically musical theatre. So were you just always a musical person as a child?
Yeah, I've always played and made music of some form. Obviously, I did a maths degree, so that was a bit of a point where I started to think, oh, music's kind of not at the front of my life. But then obviously things changed, and now it still is. So yeah, from a young age, I've always been playing and
And
making
you're
music.
a multi-instrumentalist, aren't you? You play all sorts.
Yeah, I've got 5 grade 8s, and I play piano, cello, trumpet, I sing, and then other things, you know.
You pick a
I
few
think,
tricks up along the way, don't you?
yeah, definitely. And also because I compose, so it's useful to know how instruments work. So I can get some noises out of a drum kit. I can play a bit of bass. I can dabble enough to be able to write for it, so I know what it's kind of capable of. What feels good for an instrument. It's a useful thing for composing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So how, as you mentioned there, you went to Durham Uni to do a maths degree, and I hear quite a lot, like you always hear that comparison between music and maths. I think people
Yeah.
bring that up all the time. So would you say that's doing the maths helped you as a musician and vice versa?
I think so. I mean, I also know a lot of musicians that aren't very good at maths. But for me, for the way my brain works, I see music quite formulaic and mathematical. Like all the intervals, the chord structure, it's all quite precise for me. So I think having that link with the maths has helped me especially. Yeah.
So what made you go to do a maths degree then over music?
I think, to be honest, it was more like a lot of people inputting and telling me it's probably better to have a maths degree and do music as a hobby, because if I do music as a degree, I'm probably not going to do maths as a hobby. I mean, so,
That's
and also
true.
and for a fallback afterwards, it's better to be able to fall back on a maths degree, I guess, especially nowadays, than a music degree.
But I'm guessing you were throughout your degree, you were getting involved with ensembles and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I played in the university orchestra and the big band, which was the best time of my life. And obviously, I was MDing outside of uni at the time. I only did one musical at uni, which was strange, I guess. But yeah, I was constantly training alongside the degree, and they didn't offer me any music options as part of my degree. I couldn't do a major and a minor. So
Nice, I like that.
thank you very much. That was unintentional. So yeah, it had to be outside uni because they wouldn't let me do it through the master's degree itself. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What I find really interesting about you compared to other musicians, and especially musicians that do musical theatre in the Northeast, is you really like musical theatre. It's not just you're happy to be playing any sort of music. You are a fan of musical theatre.
Do you know what? It's such a great art form, and especially I love studying it and seeing where it's come from. Obviously, I do NESST and the Sondheim stuff, but that couldn't have been a thing without Bernstein. It couldn't have been a thing without Rodgers and Hammerstein, without Gilbert and Sullivan. So the whole history of it, I love it. I think it's such a great thing.
So what was your way into that? Was it just through music, or did you find it sort of extracurricularly to other things?
I think probably, to be honest, probably through my A level, we studied. Well, I hated it at the time. We did West Side Story as one of it was stage music for the stage, it was called, and we did Purcell, the Wagner opera, and then we did West Side Story. And at the time, I was like, "Oh no, I hate West Side Story. I don't want to Bernstein it." You wouldn't believe it, right? I'd never heard of any of these people, and then studying that. I mean, it's only A level, but God, it was so interesting, and that was the spark. That's probably where it kind of became more of a serious passion than just I like musicals.
Yeah, definitely. So what was your first sort of job in music? I made like be it amateur or otherwise.
Job. I mean, so I don't know. I've dabbled in all sorts of areas of music. So like I used to gig with a band, well, a few bands. So that's a job that I kind of did during my sixth form years. I've written pantomimes that have been staged like at the Royalty in Sunderland. So I composed that. And then my first MD job was, I think, probably at Washington Theatre, and they got me and also the band in for Little Shop of Horrors, which was their first musical as well. So, and I didn't realise I was MD at the time. I just thought we were going to want to play the music, and they were like, "Right, so you're conducting," and I was like, "Oh no, what?" Like I'd never done it. I'd only ever like assistant MD'd at school. Anyway, so that was the first like official MDing gig that I'd ever had, and then from there I got seen by someone at the Royalty who then brought me there, and like it was just a great opportunity, and it was completely like by chance, by complete fluke
Yeah.
that we got it. But it's
Yeah.
still, yeah, a lot of first. Oh, sorry, I'll start with
It's
you.
all right, mate. It's all right. Go ahead. I think it was just a lag in the.
Like, I was gonna say a lot of work for me, especially like, well, that's all I know, is it's come through like contacts or being seen or being heard. So like even my first job in London, I only got that because I went to see Miss Saigon, looked up the MD like as I would always do in every show, and then on the website it said like other people you may want to know. You know, when does that different people that you probably don't know but they think she might. And there was a woman called Kate Young. I didn't realize what a big deal she is in the whole world. So I messaged her and I was like, I'm an MD, I want to be an MD, right? And she was like, all right, come to my house in London. So I went to London for the day, went to her house. This random woman I never met, and she was like, right, play me a song. I think I played Somewhere That's Green, because I think that's what she asked for. And then she said, right, play it Up a Minor Third. So I did it again. And we just chatted in her house. And then she offered me a job as assistant MD at Brick Lane from that. And it's just about, for me, it's been about like being brave enough to just put myself out there and be like, rely on the fact that like I kind of know, well, I think I know what I'm doing. Some people probably don't, but rely on the fact that I've been trained enough to be able to like hold my own. It sounds really big-headed, but you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
I know you. I know your. Well, I don't know your skill set very well, but we've done a smattering of shows together, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here, because obviously, like we're very friendly, but I don't really know much about your
yeah,
path to sort of get into all of this.
it's a very path. It's probably not the traditional path, or if there is one, but it's definitely not the most straightforward path. But you know, it's working.
So you
Far.
mentioned Kate Young there. Who,
Yeah.
like, just for people that haven't heard of her, who is she?
So she's probably one of the earliest female MDs in the West End, and she was their MD in original shows of like I think Sunset Boulevard. She was in the room where when Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote the song. The song Sunset Boulevard from Sunset Boulevard, and told me the story about how that was written and how it wasn't completely original ideas. She's done, I don't know what she's done. She's done so like a lot of the original stuff that she's done, like the original West End casts, and now she's like, I think she's retired now. She was definitely near retirement when I went and played with her. But she's fantastic. She's incredible.
And she was, but by the sounds of it, pretty instrumental into getting you into what you're doing now.
Yeah, like completely like having the faith in some random kid. It was like, I want to be an MD, and just saying, all right, go on then. But I think her story was similar. She lived in Scotland, and she, as a woman, I think she went to Royal Northern, and then went to London in the hope of finding a job. But in the same way, she was like quite, she knew her stuff. So she was just relying on the fact that she knew what she was doing, and hopefully people would see that. And she made it big time. She's one of the two people that I look up to. No, three. There's definitely three, but she's the first one.
So what you're going to have to do now, due to the nature of how you said that, is talk about the other two.
Stop it. All right. So, okay, the other two. One of them's called Greg Arrowsmith. He's probably one of the current biggest MDs going. And I've assisted him 2 or 3 times. He was also instrumental in my entry to musical direction, because the whole reason it's a long story. Do you want the long story?
I want the long story.
This is about Greg. The other one's even better. But anyway, so there was a musical theatre workshop week thing at Sunderland University. It was run through, and there's a guy called Graham Danby who's from English National Opera. He was running it, and there was Greg Arrowsmith, West End MD, Shelby Williams, West End choreographer. There's one more, I can't remember what they were called. And so I messaged the university and been like, I didn't know who any of them were, and I was like, I really want to be an MD. Can I go and watch how it's done? So Graham, who is probably the most influential person in my life ever, was like, right, come and meet me at least. So I said, all right. So I went with my dad. This was during my like final year of the degree, and he basically said like, right, Tim. He didn't know me. He was like, Tim, finish your degree. And then my dad came with me. He went, Dad, give him to me. I'll sort him out. So I assistant MD'd that course to Greg, which is how I met Greg. And then Graham's been like my mentor for my whole time as an MD. So everything I've done has always been like, he's been behind me, supporting me and like finding opportunities and stuff like that. So yeah, but Greg was incredible. He inspires me so much. He's a real musician, and he's not trained. He didn't do the grades. He didn't go and get all qualifications. He's just really, really good at what he does. So that's good, because like I aspire to be like him. And the other person is Stuart Pedler. You might know Stuart Pedler.
I've never heard of Stuart Pedler, actually.
He was the MD. Well, do you know the Sondheim workshop videos in that big blue room?
Yes.
He was on that, and he's like
right.
MD'd all original Sondheim stuff. He's like probably the most, apart from Sondheim, knows the most about Sondheim in the whole world. So like you can imagine me, I've assisted him twice and a half. And God, everything he says is like gold dust. You need to just like constantly suck up what he's saying. He's unreal.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah. Greg, Stuart, and Kate are my top three that like push me forward.
Now I do want to talk about Sondheim, obviously, but we could sit and talk about that for an hour. But but like before we go into that, you've mentioned three people there, but for like who else are like other characters? I know you sort of made friends with Arg from Towie on a pantomime, but like what other sort of like big characters, big names have you worked with or had contact with?
I don't know. I've just random people a lot of the time. So like I've played for Kerry Ellis. I can't say that.
Yeah.
I've played with John Partridge, who was Rum Tum Tugger in Cats.
Wow,
83 production, was it? I can't remember what year. Maybe. Yeah. People like soap stars come along. So like the guy who played, what's he called? The guy from Corrie. I can't remember his name.
Which one? I'll do a quick research.
He's called Pivaro, is the actor.
Pivaro?
Yeah, Pivaro.
Nigel Pivaro.
Anyway, yeah. Oh, Duckworth. Someone Duckworth.
John Duckworth?
I don't know. Could be.
1 sec, let's have a look. Anyway, tell the story and I'll come back.
So just people like, I think Panto is definitely the place for meeting names if you're into meeting names. That's where I met Arj as well, because a lot of Panto relies on people knowing who's in it nowadays, rather than I'm a trained singer, I'm a trained dancer. It's I've got a big name, everyone will come and see me. So they're the main people that I meet that are names through Panto, to be honest. The rest I probably value more, but you know,
let's hear about that, because I'm sure there's some people that are very happy to meet soap stars, but there's also some people that's like, I'm not going to say anything mean, but there's definitely some people with, as you being a real professional and real talent in the music, there will be some names that you could possibly teach others about in something like this.
Yeah, like soap star people.
Just anyone that you've sort of met and has had an impact on you.
An impact on me.
It was Terry Duckworth, by the way.
Terry Duckworth, that's it.
We've got it.
Well, I like it. I'd say one person that sticks out to me is a guy called Andy Maguire. He was in Hollyoaks and did a show on Channel 4 called $1 Million Men. And like, he was playing Jack in the panto, but he was really professional. He was definitely a dancer. Couldn't sing as well, but like, he was one of these guys who like works hard, but like also has good, like isn't above himself to not put the work in. He knows where he's at, but he knows what he can do to keep pushing. So he's a guy that I enjoyed working with. Do you want another one?
Yeah, go on. Why not? Let's fill some time.
All right. But now, Who else have I ever done stuff with? Oh, I'll tell you what. I just remembered. So, I don't know what I thought of. My Nord piano is full of signatures of people that I've worked with.
Yeah.
So the obvious one for me is Zoe Burkett, who
Yeah.
So I played for her academy, and I've met loads of really talented people through her, through like Jacqueline Hughes, who played Elsa Burr, I think.
Yeah.
Savannah Stevenson, who was the other one, Glinda.
The other.
But yeah, Zoe's incredible, and because she went to the same school as me, I know what she's come from, and like where she is now, she's doing amazing things. So Zoe's a really good person that I've met. That
I
I've worked with.
actually met Zoe on the same show that I met you.
Really?
She came to she won't remember, but she came to the studio that we were at because I think at the time she was at Les Mis and it was at the Newcastle Theatre Royal.
Okay.
And she was friends with some people and ended up coming down to have a bit chat. So yeah.
She's so lovely. She's so down to earth. Like,
yeah, she really is.
All the people that she's like the least egotistical. She knows exactly like how to approach people.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's just go into it. Stephen Sondheim. You absolutely love the man, and that's no secret. What is it? I think, and the thing is, everyone that's in musical theatre just is obsessed with the man and everything about him. But what is it for you?
All right. So for me, right, Sondheim, do you know what? It's just something about the pure art. It's just a really pure art form. Like, I love pretty much most things, right? But some shows you can tell it's just like easy listening, or it rhymes. That's nice, sounds all right. Like, but every single word in Sondheim's work and every note is deliberate, and I just love the absolute like care that he takes with making the show right. And he's not bothered like if anyone likes it. He wants to make sure that it's right for the show, and I think he gets it right every single time. Like, what's the quote? There's a quote in Sunday in the Park where he says, everything you do, what's it? Let others, don't worry if what you're making is new, let others know that decision they usually do. Which makes me think like he doesn't really care if he's making something new or groundbreaking. He's just doing what he wants to do, and if anyone likes it, that's fantastic. And if they don't, then whatever. But he's doing it right for the show. Whereas a lot of people, mentioning no names, Patrick and Paul, seem to make a lot of shows that are now getting more commercialized because they want to make some more money, but they're not focused on as much on the show. Well, in my opinion. So that's why I love him, because he doesn't really care what everyone thinks, and the fact that everyone does love him, well, most people love him, is just really good.
I'm going to put it out there that I like Pasek and Paul.
Right.
No, hear me out. What? First of all, yes, I do like them. Second of all, maybe they might end up on the podcast one day. but no, I do like them. But what I have noticed since Evan Hansen, especially, is that they have, I was talking about this literally 2 days ago, they have established a style that other people have followed because they write, I'm not going to call them more basic, but they write, for example, 4-chord songs. Greatest Showman was it was a lot of 4-chord songs, and they were all really good songs, but that is a style that's being followed by people, and I think that an amateur writer, composer can look at their music and go, that is more doable than listening to Leonard Bernstein or Sondheim or something like Jason Robert Brown.
I'd buy that. The only thing I think, for me as an MD, is that if you look at the work like Edges and Dogfight, where it's really well written. And
I like Dogfight. I really do like Dogfight.
Lines. It's just, for me, you can definitely see the clear, this is what we're passionate about, to, we like it still, but this is now more accessible. And like, I don't know, I think you can definitely see the shift in commercialism and how much they want to give musically.
Yes, but
go on.
I know. Here's the thing. I agree with you. I'm just trying to think about it in a different way.
Devil's advocate.
Yeah, definitely. Evan Hansen and Showman, ones that I mentioned.
Yeah.
International success and popularity.
Yeah. But probably most of that success won't be from the musical theatre community. It'll probably be from people who like pop songs and it sounds like a pop song. So they probably go, yeah, love this song.
That was exactly my second point. People, and I am very hesitant to use the word purist, because it makes it sound like some musical theatre people are snobby, but some musical theatre people are. And and I think me too. And I think it's like that sort of thing. We can go like, yeah, let's get really into the nitty gritty of Parade or Sunday in the Park, that sort of thing, because we like the more difficult, challenging stuff, and other people don't get it. You know what I mean? Which is, it's wrong, but it's kind of true.
And like musical theatre, at the end of the day, is for everybody. It's not for just people that know about musical theatre, which I get. It's just, yeah, when they can write such clever stuff and then to ping it all back so like over such a short time, that's what upsets me. It's not that I'm not so much upset with the musicals themselves. It's more that I'm upset that they've gone from what they did, which was pretty clever stuff, and have taken it. Like, I'd much rather play Great Showman if it was written like Dogfight, and it wasn't so chuggy chug.
Yeah,
but
Dogfight's got some really interesting stuff in it. You've MD'd that show, haven't you?
I have played keys 1 on it.
Oh, you played keys on it. Oh, who was MD on that show in Durham?
Robson.
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, who knew? Yeah, it's a lovely show, isn't it? But as you say, it's a bit more meaty than some of the other stuff.
Yeah, I'd take a Pascal and Paul show over a jukebox any day. So
yeah, yes,
they can have. That's a moral win for them.
Good, they've got one.
Yeah.
So leading on from there, what got them? Like, obviously, saying Stephen Sondheim, you're a really huge fan of his music and everything about him. What was the thing that made you go, I am such a fan of him that I'm going to create a theatre group about him, which is the NESST, NESST, Northeast Stephen Sondheim Theatre, for anyone. I will provide some links in the description about all of that sort of thing. But for you, what was that process of making this all about?
So I remember this day so vividly, and it was at Dalton Park McDonald's, of all places. And I just thought, there's so many Sondheim shows, and all you ever see is Sweeney Todd, In the Woods, and occasionally an average production of Company. And that's really kind of all you see. And all I wanted is the whole concept of it was two things. One was to make it do other stuff that no one tends to do as much, which is why Sunday in the Park with George was the first show, because no one had done that in the Northeast. And secondly, to like steer away from being another Amdram, because there's so many Amdrams in the Northeast, and like it's kind of getting a bit too much. So I wanted to stay clear of that and try and go not professional, but like somewhere in the middle where we can offer like semi-professional opportunities, but like establish us. So like recently we've been building the brand more to like make that more of a thing, because it's kind of like the first bit is being done of doing stuff that people aren't doing as much, and now we're trying to like build the other side.
What sets you aside, I think, from other Amdrams that I've seen, been involved in, is the level of art that you take pride in. It's like because Sondheim's been done in every which way possible, and you can see some of the some really like minimalist like sort of things, and for an Amdram that sort of thing works perfectly, not only just because you're saving in budget, which is notoriously minimal in amateur dramatics, especially in the north, but it also really, it gives no distractions. There's no not that Sondheim shows need much huge like sets and orchestras and that sort of thing, but it really brings it down a level
Yeah.
to you are listening to the music and you are focusing on the core of the show.
Yeah, I think two things with that. The first one would be, for me, I hate shows that hide behind sets and props and costumes. It's, for me, it becomes, look how much money we've chucked, and it's sometimes all about the story and the acting. He doesn't want flashy shows. He wants this genuine story, whatever it is, whether it's a cow or a barber or an artist. It's always about their story and each character's arc. And so you're right. I think it aids us that way. It also is notoriously hard to sell a show of one of the most notoriously unpopular composers for the generic public. But that's another story. But I think as well, I've worked with a director called Emily Grant on Into the Woods and also Merrily. And her vision for Into the Woods especially was like so out there, something I like never even thought about. So like the first half, it was set in a doll's house. The first half was like the nice doll's house, everything's colourful, and like there was sort of Baker and the Baker's wife were like Punch and Judy. Had like the cow was class. It was just what's it called? Jack was like a little lederhosen, little like doll. It was so clever. And then the second half, obviously, when things take a turn for the worse, the doll's house is now faded. It's black and white, and like everything's stripped back, and we can see like really it's all a show, all this color and stuff. And it's just another way of thinking about it. But like it was so the way she did it, and the way that she like showed us all these box plots. It was so clever. So I think yes, Sondheim's been done a lot, but I think with the right brain behind it, there's definitely still more ways to do it.
100%. For example, famously, was it last year, the year before? Company. being done by with a female Bobby. Did you see it?
I did see it. Did you see it?
I didn't. I've listened to the cast recording. They did do one, didn't they?
Yeah.
I've listened to that.
Out.
So what did you think of that?
So I'm like mixed about it, and I know everyone fangirls. I think technically, to watch, it's stunning. It was technically incredible. Like the way the set was working as part of the piece was incredible. The lights, the band were great. The MD talked to me afterwards and had a good chat about like the show. Fantastic. For me, I didn't feel it was the need to change Bobby, and I wasn't so much. I don't mind like the Bobby change. I didn't think it needed to happen, but fine. For me, the thing that detracted was the knock-on effect of Bobby being a girl. So, for example, I always say, you can drive a person crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So that's traditionally would be sung by the three kind of soprano voices, and it quite literally is. You can drive a person crazy, and it's that high-pitched nagging voice of the woman, which Bobby's like, no. But when the revival, they've got three kind of smooth tenors going, ba-da, ba-da, boo, and it sounds like a barbershop. It sounds lovely. It doesn't sound naggy. That's not the point. It wouldn't drive you crazy. You could listen to that all day.
Yeah. That was the one thing that I didn't really like. The that exact example. The ba-da-da-da, and it's like, just keep it as shrill, please. As much as I hate it when I'm listening to it, just keep it as that.
Or even like an even smaller, tiny example, and it probably isn't the biggest thing in the world, but you notice it if you know the original show. Another 100 people, the lyric is, on my service would explain.
Yes.
That's the right words.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll text you and explain. Now, the point of the word service is that was a thing where you'd ring up and someone else would deliver the message for you.
Yeah.
If you were there. So it was really like not a personal thing to do. It was someone else to do it. It was make a plan, someone else will tell you it's cancelled. And now it's make a plan, I'll text you and cancel it. It's sort of the same, but it requires more effort to text someone and say, oh, sorry, plan's cancelled, than to say, someone else will do it.
I think I'm right in saying that the original company came out in 1970, like on the money, like because it's such a 70s show, and it came out in 1970, and that is a real, obviously in 1970 you're not going to text and explain, and that I'll call them on it in this, like the service will explain, as a real cultural thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
as I say, I didn't see it, so I can't comment. You'll be able to answer. Was it still 70s or was it 2019?
It was very much modern. Yeah, it was definitely modern and not 70s. But it's tricky to take away that 70s vibe that the music definitely has.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, it's a great show and it works both ways. It does work. Just for me, I prefer the old version. That's all it is.
So
Yeah.
let's branch out a little bit from Sondheim.
Okay.
I am a huge fan of Jason Robert Brown, and that'll be well known to anyone who knows me. And he really credits Sondheim as his as one of his huge inspirations. So is that, do you see Sondheim in other people's work and then click on and go, oh, I can see that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Sondheim said about Jason Robert Brown, at last I can put my pen down because he found someone who'd like finally reached the same standard, which I thought was quite cute. But yeah, I totally see it. Like NESST did a concert, we called it Legacy, and it was all about people that inspired Sondheim and also the music that's been inspired by him and all his work. So like you see it in Hamilton, Sondheim checked those lyrics before they got anywhere close to a stage. He's definitely got his fingers in all the pies.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally see that. But yeah, Jason Robert Brown's incredible. I love him. I love his work. I love how well he writes for piano. That's why I love playing his stuff.
Yeah, it's as someone who is nowhere the level pianist that you are, I look at. Please don't make that face of going like, no, I'm not. I look at Jason Robert Brown's music, like physically looking at a copy of a score, and it's just how someone can come up with that is beyond me. Beyond me, because like I mentioned Parade before, the first bit of music, Old Red Hills of Home, the two notes on the right hand side are F and B, and that shouldn't work. And because he's not going like, oh, I'll play this chord and it'll move to there, immediately you've got dissonance immediately. And you would never think to put that music that he puts together in that way.
Yeah, totally right. I totally agree.
He's another one. He's probably my Sondheim. Like you've got Sondheim and I've got Jason Brown. It's I think it's absolutely ridiculous. But let's move on. Oh, sorry, Meg. Go on.
Doesn't the Red Hills have like the two tunes overlapping at the start as well at the end?
Yes.
Because that reminds me of a composer called Charles Ives.
Yes.
You might have heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of stuff that like was like that. Like he's written a trio of quarter tone piano pieces where the two pianos, one's a quarter tone higher than the other.
That's where I've heard of him from.
Yeah. And it was inspired by marching bands. You know that story?
Yes.
Yeah, and it reminds me of that because you can see there's a definite link.
Yeah. Anyone who's into their music should really go and look at that piece because it's it's a real test. As Tim was explaining, it was two pianos and one of them was tuned up a quarter tone, so it was a microtonal thing all the way throughout, and it's chaos, but it's really, really interesting music if you can sit down with it.
Charles Ives quarter tone pieces is what they're called. There you
Brilliant. Go. What I'd like to talk about, just for 5 minutes to indulge me, is our most recent project together, which was Soho Cinders.
Oh yeah.
If you'll remember that, who wrote it again? The people that wrote did they write The Wind in the Willows, the new one of that?
I think so.
Oh, Styles and Drew. It was Styles and Drew.
Yeah.
And I think that was such a fun show to work on.
Do you know what? I didn't know it going into it, and it was great. I really loved it. I listened to it all the time. Like, well, not all of it, but like a few of the songs.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of you.
Thank you.
It was great. And weren't you also the Wolf line?
Yeah.
No, cross. You always put your name across in a box. Do do do.
Yeah, that was me. And then
yeah.
that whole thing that you're thinking of is Dog That Gets the Bone later on in the show.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. When we were told that was going to be our show, Tim, the year before was Into the Woods.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what we were expecting. I think all of our year was expecting it to be 13. And they ended up doing that the year after us. But they were like, oh, your show is Soho Cinders. And everyone was like, what's that? Never heard of it. But after we were told, we all went out, did a little bit of research, listened to the track, and everyone was like, I can get on board with this. The music is such fun. And I'm really glad that I could get you and the guys on board with that, because I think we managed. I was involved at the beginning of getting the band together, but you guys really stole it, and I think we had such a great time on that show.
I love it. It was, you know what? It was actually, the cast were great. It was one of those shows where everyone's just really good at what they do. Like, yeah, it worked really well. That it's not on YouTube anymore, is it? It was on YouTube at one point.
I think it is still.
Is it still?
I think so. Yeah. This will be the second podcast in a row that Ethan Scott gets a shout out, but I think it's on his channel.
All right, I'll have a look later.
Okay, so last thing that I'd really like to talk about is I might be butchering the pronunciation here, so let me off. But Kara Koram.
Oh, well, so I don't know how it's pronounced. Everyone says it differently. I say it Kara Koram.
Kara Koram, okay.
But when I want to say, I don't really mind.
So,
yeah.
Kara Koram is an opera that you composed.
Yes.
And did you do the libretto for it as well?
I co-wrote the libretto with a guy. Yeah. So the way, should I just start talking about it?
Yep, just go top and bottom on it.
Right. So, the way I compose, I always say I need a lyric to write the music to. Because obviously inspired by Sondheim, I need the lyrics first. I need to know what it's about so I can match the music, rather than just generic music. Like, it doesn't work for me the other way around. But I can't write the lyrics. I can try, I can make good rhymes, but I can't make a story out of the lyrics. I can write like a song at a time, but it was a bit in between. I was a bit stuck on. And I did the music for a film with a guy called Carl Harrison, and he wrote the libretto with me. I explained, basically I had the whole idea in a dream, the whole concept of the show, wrote it down, started making little tiny ideas, but nothing massive, and then wrote that. So yeah, that was like February and a half ago. So I was not 15 months, 16, and then I left it until like in the last year, like October time, and then from that point I was like, right, need to write it, need to get it sorted, because we had this premiere planned in April in Hartlepool and didn't have a show at that point. So I wrote it and I finished it by Christmas, and it was fine, rehearsed, cast, everything like that. And yeah, I like it. It's
so to give a little rundown, Tim, what's it about?
So it's a bit of a tragic love and horror in one. Basically, a brief synopsis is: little boy called Everett is in bed, and his family are about to go on a holiday to the mountain of Kara Koram, well, the region of Kara Koram, and he doesn't want to go because his brother's been telling him all these stories of the horrible yeti and the horrible monster that lives in the snow and whatever. So he is like, no, I don't want to go. So he doesn't go, and his family leave him with his uncle who doesn't want to go on holiday. He's scared, and they all disappear. They never come back. Then we skip over to the mountains, and this is based off a true story called the Doubt of Pass incident. And then this mountaineer called Melissa, she's going up the mountain, and she, with 10 of them all together, and she just turns back. She senses something isn't right, and she doesn't know what it is, but she's like, I can feel something's not right here, and I'm not going. She goes back, and her friends never return from the same area. And then later on, Everett's grown up, and he's a reporter, and he hears of this story of these 9 of them going missing, but there's one survivor. And then he finds out where it is, and he's like, that's the place where my family went missing. I need to solve this for her and also for me. So he flies out to Kara Koram, meets with her, and essentially it's a yeti hunt in opera. And then there's scary things happen. romance happens. There's a nice little twist and a really warm ending. It's
Lovely.
as much as, and do you know what? It's been a blessing. I say blessing. It's been interesting because obviously it was set to go in April. Was supposed to be the thing that had the orchestration done, printed, nice orchestra sorted. The theatre was gorgeous. The cast had been rehearsing at the Sage, and then this happened, all the COVID stuff. So that's been delayed. But then since then, we've been accepted onto a London Opera Festival. So it's scheduled for September, but probably might get postponed. We'll find out at the end of this month if it's postponed or not. So it's due to go to, like, I think it's called the Cockpit Theatre in, like, West London in September, which would be
Big news.
fun. Didn't think that would ever happen. I thought this is April, Hartlepool, done. But no, it's going to London. So there we go.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. So will you be going down as musical director for that, do you think? Oh, Tim's gone.
Sorry.
Oh, Tim's back.
Sorry, I got someone calling me.
Oh, it's all right.
Musical director for it, yes. And probably, yeah, I'm definitely musical director. I'm probably down as everything else as well, because I'm composing it and writing the words and everything else. But yeah, I put that down as MD first of all.
Playing it?
I'm playing it, yeah.
Good.
Because why? There's some tricky moments. There's some times which are very much like you don't want to. You need to know where it goes to play it, kind of thing. You know, when like, you hear it, you can play it back, but looking at it, you're like, "What the hell does that mean?" It's that. There's quite a few of those, not loads, but like enough to throw someone off that maybe doesn't know it.
Jason Robert Brown had a quote, because you'll know that Jason Robert Brown plays a lot of his stuff and he does concerts and that sort of thing. But Jason Robert Brown had a quote saying, I'm going to butcher the I can't remember exactly, so I'm paraphrasing, but he was saying he wrote the music, so he owes it to his music to be able to play it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a pretty similar thing that you've got going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's good. I'll send you the score sometime. Have a look through it.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, I'd love that.
Only an hour and a bit long, hour and a quarter.
Yeah, brilliant. I'd really enjoy that. So, Tim, that comes to the end of my questions.
It's me.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on. I've had a really good time, and I'm sure that when things go back to normal, we'll end up working together in some capacity again.
Hope so. Thank you for having me and asking me on.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Tim. It's been great.
But all right. Cheers. Keep safe.
Yeah, you too, mate. You too. Bye.
Hey, mate.